Good morning. This is Judge Alyssa Perez presiding over the 210th District Court criminal docket for August 29th, 2023. All matters being heard today are being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. Mr. Madufo, would you call our next case, please?
In cause number 2023-0D01908, State of Texas versus Patrick Leonardo Perez. Announcement of counsel, please.
And Tyler Ortega for the state. The state is ready.
John Williams for Mr. Perez. Ready, Your Honor.
And for purposes of the record, Mr. Perez is also appearing remotely. We have this scheduled for a motion to withdraw. Let me just ask Mr. Perez, have you discussed with Mr. Williams or reviewed the motion to withdraw that he has filed?
I have not discussed the actual motion that he's filed.
Okay, Mr. Williams, will you tell me a little bit about the issue and your need for withdrawing?
Judge, I had discussed the issue with my client right before I filed the motion. But the issue is the complaining witness is Judge Gabaldon's daughter. And one of the witnesses is his son, who's a police officer. When Judge Gabaldon was the associate judge of the Child Welfare Court, I was one of about 15 or 16 attorneys that regularly was in that court. He would bring his children to the court sometimes during the summers to hang out and during breaks, I guess, and when they had medical appointments. And given the fact that I know the family, I had talked to this complaining witness when she was a child. I probably have not talked to her since she was 20 or 21. But I think there is that appearance, and I do not, if the case is not resolved and it ends up in a trial, I don't want to have any hesitancy in cross-examining either the complaining witness or her brother, the officer, or anyone else associated with the case. Nor do I want anyone questioning my, maybe you held back because you had a relationship with the father. So I think this case, I think, is a defensible case. There's a whole lot going on, but given the family's involvement in the case and my friendship with the now deceased judge, I just don't think it's a good idea for me to continue to represent Mr. Perez, and I'd ask to be allowed to withdraw.
Okay. And so one thing I was wanting to clarify, and you did enunciate that in the motion, is that you are court appointed. Mr. Perez, obviously, Mr. Williams has stated to the court sufficient grounds in terms of a conflict by which I would allow him to withdraw in your case. So I am going to grant that. We have a jury trial in October of this year. Let me ask a few things before you're officially off, Mr. Williams. Is number one, Ms. Ortega, do you happen to know the rec? I think I heard you off record say this is not necessarily your case.
Right. It's going to be handled by ADA Rosing, but I do know the recommendation is 8 AP with several conditions involving mental health caseloads.
Okay, so it's 8 years straight probation?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Okay, Mr. Perez, I just wanted to make sure I understood that on the record right now, that you understood that that is the offer that they're making. Let me ask your attorney, Mr. Williams, was there anything outstanding in terms of discovery or anything like that?
No, Your Honor, I believe everything is in there. I had an investigator appointed, so I know that LJ and Associates has been working on the case as well.
Okay. And so the reason I bring that up, Mr. Perez, is because obviously, it sounds like Mr. Williams thinks this could possibly be a trial case. Things may still continue to develop up until that final hearing plea deadline. But always when we have a new attorney come in, they may need additional time, number one, to get up to speed. Or there may be things that come up that, just make things delay. And so for now, because we are about 2 months out from the trial date, I am going to leave those settings as is. Maybe there's something that if everything's been disclosed, it's a matter of a few conversations and maybe there's some issue to resolve that will resolve it, or you will have your trial date if your new attorney is ready. I am going to appoint the public defender's office. So generally that will be a gentleman by the name of Richard Huffman. They have several attorneys, but generally he gets most of the cases in this court. It'll be the public defender's office that will decide who is appointed specifically on your case. So we'll get that appointment. The motion to withdraw is granted. I am going to leave the dates as is. So as of right now, you have a status conference actually in 1 week. So from there, then you have a final judges conference on October 3rd, leading up to the final hearing plea deadline on October 24th, and then trial on October 27th. I will, of course, extend any 2801 deadlines, Ms. Ortega, so you can let your colleague know that. In the event we don't totally reset, but I would say, Mr. Perez, anticipate that your trial will likely be reset unless you and your attorney, your new attorney, are prepared to go forward, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir.
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, I didn't want to misrepresent. Mr. Williams and I had discussed his reasonings for wanting to withdraw. We just hadn't discussed the actual motion document that he had filed. So did I understand that the DA's office did have recommendations? You said 8 years straight probation.
Correct.
Is that something that has been, so that hasn't been formally submitted to the court yet, though, at this time?
It doesn't get submitted to me necessarily. I generally wouldn't hear that. The reason I ask is because as we're transitioning from attorneys, I'm not suggesting you're this kind of party, but sometimes people think when they switch attorneys, like the offer gets better. I just want to have on record as of right now with Mr. Williams exiting what the offer has been from the DA's office. Now, when you get your new attorney, stays the same, changes, I have no control over that. That's for your attorney and for the state to negotiate. Okay.
Okay. And you said Mr. Richard Hoffman would be assigned, or he's the one that will do the assigning?
No, I am assigning the public defender's office. Mr.
Okay.
Huffman is the attorney from the public defender's office that is generally assigned to this court. But there's a couple of others. He gets most of the cases. So
Okay.
We will get that order filed today. So they will be on file as your attorney today. Your next setting is September 5th. So if you checked in yesterday for today's hearing, it's the same kind of thing for next week. So next week you have your status conference on September 5th. You are to check in. Is that Labor Day?
Yes, Judge.
How are they checking in?
I think I want to have him check in on Friday if I send out the docket on Thursday, Judge,
Okay.
or the day of.
Yeah, I would say day of for Mr. Perez, just so we can also verify, Mr. Perez, that you and Mr. Huffman have made contact, okay?
Yeah, he represented me when at the earlier iteration of this case, and then he himself had to withdraw back in
Oh, well
January.
then let's hold on.
Yeah.
Let's hold on a second. Was there a conflict back then?
No, ma'am. He withdrew because he actually left private practice and I guess joined you all as a state
Oh.
defendant. So it become full circle. So yeah,
Interesting.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
right.
So in that case, Mr. Perez, I am going to have you check in for your status conference as you're doing today for next
Yeah.
week. Check in at that date. I want to make sure there's nothing else that was preventing him representing you. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah, I understand.
All right. Sounds good. So we'll see you next week, Mr. Williams. You're off, and we'll keep dates for now, but that may change. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for your
morning,
time.
everybody.
Take care. Mr. Perez, you are excused.